Early morning in the Cedar Grove neighborhood, as gentle sunlight filtered through the lush green trees, Maya Johnson began a new day full of energy and hope. She was a talented neurosurgeon, a strong and resilient woman who deeply cherished her small family, beside her husband, Army Colonel David Johnson. They lived in a cozy home within a wealthy and civilized community, a place where injustice seemed to have no place. Maya always knew that on her career and life path, she would face many challenges, but she never imagined that simply because of her skin color, she would be suspected, discriminated against, and treated like a criminal in public. It was a day like any other when Maya walked into the Greenway supermarket where she regularly shopped for her family's needs. But today, strange glances, scrutinizing looks, and a baseless accusation caught her completely off guard. A white woman wearing a suspicious expression pointed directly at her and accused her of stealing medicine. In that moment, the atmosphere in the store seemed to freeze. All eyes focused on Maya the black woman, standing amid a storm of prejudice, unsure how to escape. Maya remained calm, trying to explain, but her words seemed blocked by an invisible wall of suspicion and discrimination. The sound of approaching police footsteps signaled a chain of events that would completely change the lives of Maya and her husband David. Two young officers, Johnson and Ellis, appeared with cold, disrespectful attitudes, unhesitatingly handcuffing Maya before the eyes of dozens of shoppers. They didn't care about the truth. All they saw was her skin color, and that was enough for them to behave in a way Maya had never experienced before. This story was not only about a woman wrongfully arrested, but also about a subtle system of racial discrimination existing even in places seemingly the most civilized. Maya, with all her value, success, and respect she had built, suddenly became a symbol of the fight against prejudice and injustice. However, within that darkness, there were still rays of hope and strength. David Johnson, her husband, her steadfast companion, did not let Maya face the storm alone. With his position and influence as an Army colonel, David stepped into the battle determined to protect his beloved wife, not just with power, but with heart and fairness. That day, the story of Maya Johnson was not just an individual story, but a powerful reminder to us all about the necessity of justice, courage, and the strength of community when confronting the shadows of prejudice. Before diving into the main story, please leave us a comment. Where and when are you listening to this story? How did it reach you, and who else do you think it might touch? Now let's begin. That morning, the atmosphere at Greenway Supermarket was calm as usual. Alana Johnson walked into the store with a light heart, preparing to buy some essential medicines for her busy work schedule. She couldn't have imagined that in an instant, her peaceful life would be shaken by a suspicious glance and cruel accusations. Susan Miller, a middle-aged white customer, was standing near the medicine shelf, staring coldly and skeptically at Alana. When Alana accidentally picked up a small bottle of medicine, Susan immediately turned to a store clerk and loudly said, "There she's hiding medicine." Alana was startled and looked back at Susan with a puzzled and questioning gaze. She gently replied, "I'm not taking anything. I'm just looking at the products." But Alana's explanation could not calm Susan's suspicion or the store clerk's. A young employee named Kyle approached with a frown and loudly asked, "Excuse me, may I check your bag?" Alana lifted her head high, keeping calm but feeling deep sorrow inside. She answered, "I haven't taken anything. I'm a doctor. I came here like everyone else." But those words seemed meaningless in the space overshadowed by prejudice. The eyes around her grew colder. Many began whispering and gossiping. Another customer interrupted, whispering to Susan, "That's typical. People don't trust black folks." Alana felt her heart tighten. She was not only suspected, but isolated right within the community she once thought was safe. The store clerk maintained a stern attitude and said in a rigid tone, "Please cooperate. We will call the police to handle the situation." At that moment, Alana stepped away from the shopping cart, raised her hands, and spoke softly but firmly. "I have done nothing wrong. I want everyone to see me as a human being, not a criminal just because of my skin color." No one responded, only contemptuous eyes and a heavy silence. Soon after, two young officers, Johnson and Ellis, appeared carrying with them long-held coldness and prejudice. Johnson looked Alana up and down, speaking with a sarcastic tone. "You're accused of stealing medicine." Anything to say, Alana tried to stay calm and replied, "I didn't take anything. Please check the cameras. I haven't broken any laws." Ellis shrugged and sneered, Cameras don't always tell the truth. Cooperate. The officers quickly handcuffed Alana in front of dozens of customers and store employees. Maya tried to maintain her composure, but inside was overwhelming fear and pain. She thought of her family, of her husband, who always trusted and supported her. Maya murmured in her heart, "Why does my skin color make me be treated like this? Why am I not trusted even though I've contributed to society with my knowledge and heart?" Her eyes scanned the room, seeing judging looks and whispered gossip about her. Loneliness and shame seemed to invade her soul. The tense dialogue between Maya and the officers only highlighted the injustice. Johnson, "You should know your place. Don't think you can do anything different." Maya, "I'm human, not a number or shadow to be abused." Ellis, "We control the situation here. What right do you have to argue?" The incident at Greenway Supermarket was not just a wrongful arrest, but a microcosm of a deeper issue: systemic racial discrimination, disrespect, and the barriers Black people face in daily life. The suspicious glances and baseless accusations did not only hurt Maya, but reminded listeners of the painful reality happening every day across the country. In that moment, Maya was not alone. She knew she had to be strong not just for herself, but for all those enduring similar injustices. That day, the atmosphere in Greenway Supermarket grew tense and stifling. When the two young officers, Johnson and Ellis, arrived, they carried not only their uniforms, but also attitudes filled with prejudice and disrespect. Their eyes did not see Alana as a doctor or a mother, but as someone suspicious from the start. Johnson stepped closer, his tone arrogant and challenging. "You're Alana Johnson, right? We received a report that you stole medicine here. So can you explain this?" Alana remained calm, her voice gentle but firm. "I didn't take anything. I request to review the cameras or any evidence." Ellis interrupted with a sneer. "Evidence usually comes later. For now, you'll have to cooperate. Handcuff her for everyone's safety." Alana clearly felt the abuse of power before her eyes. No warning, no respectful questions, just a habitual exercise of authority. The cold handcuffs tightened around her wrists, a public and humiliating act. Customers silently witnessed the scene. Many felt uncomfortable. Some looked away to avoid Alana's gaze. A few secretly recorded with their phones, while others remained indifferent, as if it were someone else's problem. Alana quietly thought of her husband, her children, the dreams and efforts she had poured into this life. With every passing second, the pain and injustice grew heavier inside her. Johnson leaned in close, whispering with contempt, "Remember, in our eyes, you're just a suspect no matter who you really are." Ellis sneered, "Just remember, we maintain order, and you're on the list of those we don't trust." Those words cut into Alana's mind like a knife, but she refused to let hatred consume her. Instead, she used inner strength to keep calm, her voice steady. "I am not a criminal. I am human. I deserve to be treated fairly." The actions of the two officers were not isolated incidents. They were the result of a deeply ingrained pattern of racial discrimination within police forces across the United States. Cases like Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Eric Garner shocked the world with abuses of power, prejudice, and unreasonable violence. It wasn't just Alana. Millions of Black people have suffered unjust treatment judged by skin color rather than the person inside. Police, instead of being defenders of justice, sometimes become symbols of injustice and violence. The incident at Greenway acted as a wake-up call about what still exists in society. Alana, a respected doctor, couldn't escape such discrimination, let alone ordinary citizens. Images of her being publicly handcuffed quickly spread across social media, drawing attention and outrage from the community. People began to speak out, raising questions about fairness and equality more forcefully than ever before. Alana understood this was not just her story, but a voice for millions. She couldn't sit quietly and watch injustice continue to spread. And from here, her journey to reclaim justice began. Outside Greenway Supermarket, chaos erupted as the sound of military sirens announced the arrival of a familiar figure, Colonel David Brooks. Not only an experienced soldier, David was a devoted husband who always put family first. People nearby stopped and turned their eyes toward him, a powerful, commanding presence. David stepped out of his vehicle, his uniform impeccable, standing out among the crowd. His steps were steady, his gaze determined yet gentle toward Alana, his wife handcuffed and hurt there. He approached Officer Johnson, his voice clear and authoritative, But serious, officer, I'm David Brooks, a military colonel. I demand to know why my wife is being detained. Johnson glanced at him, trying to appear defiant. Sir, she's suspected of stealing. We're just doing our job. David would not let the explanation slide. I want her treated fairly and her innocence proven immediately. Otherwise, you will be held responsible for this unprofessional behavior. Ellis interjected coldly. We're doing our job. Who do you think you are to lecture us? David stood firm, his voice sharpening. I'm a defender of the law and a believer in justice. I will not let anyone insult or mistreat my wife. David's presence was like a solid shield, creating a wall of power between Alana and the police abuse. The tension was palpable, everyone feeling the fierce confrontation between two forces: military authority, determination, and courage on one side, local police with deep-rooted conservatism and prejudice on the other. Alana looked at her husband with eyes full of trust and hope. She gently said to him, "Thank you for coming, just in time. I don't know what I would have done facing them alone." David embraced Alana warmly. "I will always be by your side, no matter what happens." This dialogue reflected not only love and unity in a family, but also sent a powerful message to all: personal power, especially the support of loved ones, can be the greatest strength in confronting social injustice. However, personal power is only part of the long and difficult fight against systemic prejudice. David's arrival only intensified the tense atmosphere, setting the stage for dramatic and meaningful developments ahead. Witnesses, customers, and employees in the supermarket began to grasp the gravity of the situation. They started questioning whether the system was truly fair. Could a Black woman have the right to speak up and protect herself against an overly powerful police force? At that moment, phones began recording every second, capturing the truth to spread widely. Social media, with its power, would become undeniable witnesses, an indispensable part of Alana Johnson's journey to reclaim justice. The lights from mobile phones flickered continuously, capturing every chaotic moment unfolding before their eyes. The murmur of voices, sympathetic sighs, hurried footsteps, all blended into a vivid picture of the injustice Maya Johnson endured. A middle-aged woman quietly raised her phone, filming, while whispering to her friend beside her, "We have to do something. They can't just treat her like that." The phone screen recorded Maya being handcuffed in public and escorted out of the store amid the stunned customers. Shouts and protests echoed, but they were mere faint sounds beneath the overwhelming force of authority. As soon as the clip was uploaded to social media, it spread like wildfire. Thousands of views, hundreds of shares within hours. People everywhere started talking about this story, from Maya's friends and colleagues to civil rights organizations and major media outlets. A young man tweeted, "This is not just a personal issue, it's a system of racial discrimination still existing. We must stand up." However, alongside supportive voices, there were also many negative, opposing, and even offensive comments aimed at Maya and those speaking out. Some users defended the police, claiming they were simply doing their job. In this story, social media was a double-edged sword. It both helped expose the truth and create public pressure, while sparking intense debates in society about racial discrimination and justice. Investigative journalist Carla Nguyen, in an analysis published on a major news site, noted, "Social media is not only an information tool, but also a weapon in the fight for social justice. Yet this power also raises questions about responsibility and fairness in how we receive and spread information." Maya knew that the power of the media was a double-edged sword, but she couldn't deny it had saved her from silence and oblivion. In every story, every shared video, Maya felt she was not alone. She heard the voices of those in similar situations, of people unwilling to accept injustice. Her husband, David, looking at the comments on his phone screen, nodded and said firmly to Maya, "This is the time we must be stronger than ever. The truth is coming out and the world is watching." Maya sighed, but her eyes still shone with unwavering belief. She knew this fight would be long and arduous, but she had the strength of the community, the media, and most importantly, the power of truth. After the bright lights of Greenway Supermarket and the noise of the crowd, Alana Johnson returned to her small home, where only silence and pent-up thoughts awaited. The door closed, creating a wall between her and the outside world, a world full of light, but no less harsh. Sitting in the living room, Alana sank into the sofa, her hands covering her face. Each moment she was viewed with suspicion, handcuffed and insulted, vividly replayed. Tears began to fall not out of weakness, but from a deep pain, the pain of the emotional wounds sown by baseless accusations. In her thoughts, she recalled Officer Johnson's contemptuous words, "You're just a suspect." Those words thundered, striking her heart with each painful beat. Maya never imagined that because of her skin color, she would be stripped of the most basic human respect. David? Her husband entered the room and saw her in that rare moment of vulnerability. He gently sat beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder, his voice soft but resolute. "Alana, you're not alone. I'm here always by your side." Alana looked back at David, her eyes brimming with tears, but filled with determination. "You know, I've never felt so hurt, not just from being arrested, but from the distrust and hostility I faced in the very place I call home." David took her hand, comforting her. "We will get through this, but you need to know this pain is not just yours. It's the story of millions, those who live under the shadow of discrimination and injustice every day." In the days that followed, Alana began to realize that this pain was more than just temporary anger or hurt. It was a deep psychological wound that could lead to stress, anxiety, and even depression if left untreated. She sought help from mental health professionals to release her burden, learn to cope, and heal. Each therapy session was a difficult step, but also an opportunity to regain confidence and balance within her soul. Psychologist Claire, who accompanied Alana, shared racism is not only a social issue, but also a form of psychological violence. It causes long-lasting injuries that many cannot immediately see. Providing mental health support to victims is essential if we want to heal and move forward. Chapter. Early in the morning in the Cedar Grove neighborhood, as gentle sunlight filtered through the lush green trees, Maya Johnson began a new day full of energy and hope. She was a talented neurosurgeon, a strong and resilient woman, yet deeply cherished her small family alongside her husband, Colonel David Johnson of the military. They lived in a cozy home within a wealthy, civilized community where injustice seemed to have no place. Maya always knew that on her career and life path, she would face many challenges, but she never imagined that simply because of her skin color, she would be suspected, discriminated against, and treated like a criminal in public. It was a normal day like any other when Maya entered the Greenway supermarket, where she often shopped for family essentials. But today, strange glances, scrutinizing looks, and a baseless accusation caught her completely off guard. A white woman wearing a suspicious expression pointed directly at her and accused her of stealing medicine. At that moment, the atmosphere inside the store seemed to freeze. All eyes turned to Maya, the black woman, standing in the eye of a storm of prejudice, unsure how to escape. Maya kept calm, trying to explain, but every word she spoke seemed blocked by an invisible wall of suspicion and bias. Footsteps of the police echoed, signaling a chain of events that would completely change the lives of Maya and her husband, David. Two young officers, Johnson and Ellis, appeared with cold, disrespectful attitudes, unhesitant to handcuff Maya in front of dozens of customers. They showed no regard for the truth, only the color of her skin, which was enough for them to act in a way Maya had never experienced before in her life. This story was not just about a wrongly arrested woman, but about a deeply ingrained systemic racism existing in places that appeared most civilized. Maya, with all her values, success, and respect she had built, suddenly became a symbol of the fight against prejudice and injustice. However, amidst that darkness, there were rays of hope and strength. David Johnson, her husband and steadfast companion, would not let Maya face the storm alone. With his status and influence as a military colonel, David stepped into the fight, determined to protect his beloved wife, not only with power, but with heart and fairness. That day, Maya Johnson's story was not just an individual tale, but a powerful reminder to us all about the necessity of justice, courage, and the strength of community when confronting the shadows of prejudice. Before we dive into the main story, please let us know in the comments. Where and when are you listening to this story? How did it come to you, and who else do you think it will reach? All right, let's begin. That morning, the atmosphere at the Greenway supermarket was calm as usual. Alana Johnson entered the store with a light heart, preparing to buy some essential medicines for her busy work life. She could not have imagined that in an instant, her peaceful life would be shattered by a suspicious glance and cruel accusation. Susan Miller, a middle-aged white customer, stood near the medicine shelves staring coldly and skeptically at Alana. When Alana inadvertently picked up a small bottle of medicine, Susan immediately turned to the store clerk and loudly declared, "There, she's hiding medicine." Startled, Alana turned to Susan with confused and questioning eyes. She gently replied, "I didn't take anything. I'm just looking at the product." But Alana's explanation did nothing to ease Susan's suspicion or the clerk's. A young clerk named Kyle approached with a frown, asking loudly, "Excuse me, may I see your bag?" Alana lifted her head, keeping calm but feeling a deep sorrow inside. She answered, "I didn't take anything. I'm a doctor here like anyone else." But that statement seemed meaningless in the space overwhelmed by prejudice. The eyes of those around her grew colder. Many began whispering and gossiping. Another customer slipped in, whispering to Susan, "That's common, people don't trust black folks." Alana felt her heart tighten. She was not only suspected, but isolated in the very community she thought was safe. The store clerk continued, sternly speaking rigidly, "Please cooperate. We will call the police to handle this matter." At that moment, Alana stepped away from the shopping cart, raised her hands, and spoke softly but firmly. "I have done nothing wrong. I want people to see me as a human being, not a criminal just because of my skin color." Shatters. In the small space of the living room, voices and legal plans continued to echo. The story of Alana and Michelle was not just a legal battle, but a journey of faith, courage, and change. Maya, with iron determination, looked forward, knowing she was not alone, that justice awaited ahead despite many unforeseen challenges. The rapid spread of the story about Alana Johnson's arrest quickly attracted attention, not only from the community, but also from powerful forces deeply embedded in the local security system. One of the first and most forceful reactions came from the city's police union led by Robert Gaines, famous for protecting brotherhood and maintaining every benefit for the police force. One tense morning in the union's office, Robert Gaines sat behind a large wooden desk, facing a large printed photo from the incident's video showing Alana handcuffed outside the supermarket. He tapped his fingers firmly on the table, his deep, resolute voice ringing through the meeting room. "We cannot allow this lawsuit to shake the reputation of the force. Our brothers in the service are under attack and we must stand up to protect them. I will not let this happen without a response." Those in the room nodded in agreement, plans beginning to be outlined swiftly and systematically. Robert continued, "We will lobby at all levels from legislators to the press. Pressure must be applied to push back the lawsuit, stop misinformation, and protect the interests of the police." A union member spoke up. "We also need to focus on building the force's image, emphasizing what they have done to protect the community. We must distract the public from this negative story." Robert nodded. "Exactly. We will use all means from media and public relations to political campaigns. Remember, reforms are not always beneficial to us." The story here was not just a simple legal dispute. It was a relentless battle between the power of the police system and the people's aspiration for justice. The police union, as a powerful organization within the system, mobilized all resources to protect its interests while creating significant obstacles in the reform process. Outside, the community began to grasp the complexity of the struggle more clearly. A social activist, Marcus Lee, shared at a gathering, "This is not just Alana's story, but the story of millions. When the police union stands behind wrongdoing, justice becomes harder to achieve." Further analysis shows that the police union does not merely protect offending individuals, but symbolizes a conservative system resistant to change. They wield political, financial, and media power to block reforms that might strip away their entrenched privileges. The union's strong lobbying efforts made many politicians cautious, causing many reform bills to be delayed or watered down. As a result, victims of police abuse and racial discrimination often face complex legal and social barriers. David, Alana's husband, in a private conversation with her, admitted, "This fight is not just about truth, but about power. We must prepare ourselves for a long and arduous battle." Alana nodded, her gaze resolute. "I will not let those forces stop me. This is a fight for myself, my family, and for all those calling for justice." The story between the police union and justice advocates stands as a clear testament to the difficulties and barriers social reform movements must overcome. It also reminds us that changing the system requires broad consensus, relentless perseverance, and community strength. The social atmosphere around Alana Johnson's story grew more lively and divided than ever before. The story of a black woman wrongfully arrested was no longer just a personal case, but became the focal point of debates on public forums, social networks, and legislative halls. On social media, hashtags like #Justice for Alana and #Stop Police Racism spread widely, attracting millions of shares and comments. Many voiced support for Alana, highlighting injustice and calling for stronger actions to end racial discrimination in the police force. A young user commented on Twitter, "It's unacceptable that black people are treated like criminals just because of their skin color. It's time for us to stand up." However, alongside that, there were also opposing opinions. Some people defended the police, arguing that they were only doing their duty under difficult conditions and that the story was exaggerated by the media. They claimed society was being overly sensitive about racial discrimination, which led to unnecessary division. On Facebook, a controversial post stated, "Police are human too. They have to work under intense pressure." We cannot only see the matter from one side. The polarization of views was not only found in social media comments, but also infiltrated legislative meetings where politicians fiercely debated bills related to police reform. Debates over police budget cuts, mandatory use of body cameras, and multicultural training peaked, causing policies to be delayed or compromised. In a city council meeting, Assemblyman James Carter, a reform advocate, spoke passionately. "We cannot continue to ignore the injustices suffered by people of color. Justice must be the guiding principle for all our actions." In contrast, Assemblyman Alan Matthews, representing the conservative side, countered, "We need to support the police force, not weaken them with overly strict laws. Security and social order must be prioritized." This clear division heightened social tensions. Reform supporters felt confronted, while those siding with the police worried that the security force's power would weaken, leading to chaos. American history has witnessed many periods of deep social division due to race and justice issues. The civil rights movement of the 1960s, anti-Vietnam War protests, and ethnic conflicts in major cities have left deep marks on the people and politicians. Compared to those eras, Alana's story reflects a new phase where social media serves as both a tool for spreading voices of justice and a platform exposing the profound divisions of modern society. Sociologist Dr. Emily Harper observed, "Division in society is not new, but the development of technology and social media has made these differences more visible and unavoidable. What's important is that we find ways to reconnect, to build bridges rather than add walls." Maya Johnson, in an interview with a local TV station, shared, "I understand that not everyone sees things the way I do, but I hope that through my story we can start sincere, non-discriminatory dialogues to move forward together." Social polarization, while making debates more difficult, also drives all parties to think, communicate, and hope to create sustainable change. Inside the cold walls of the city courthouse, where power and justice intersect, there are quiet but immensely important individuals in the fight for justice. Olivia Bennett, a young court employee, is one of those people. Olivia is neither a media figure nor a legal representative. She does a job few know about, an important role always hidden in the shadows. But it was Olivia who quietly monitored, documented, and gathered every piece of evidence, every crucial video from the Greenway supermarket incident. One late afternoon, when the courthouse was mostly empty, Olivia sat in front of her computer screen, repeatedly watching video clips, noting every smallest detail that could clarify the police's racial discrimination and abuse of power. Her eyes shone with determination, the courage of an individual who knew she held the power to change someone else's fate. She recalled the first time she witnessed the event through security cameras. It was the moment Officer Johnson showed no respect, only contempt and blatant abuse of authority. Olivia fully understood that without this clear evidence, the chances of winning the case would be very slim. In a private meeting with lawyer Michelle Carter and Alana, Olivia presented what she had collected. This is the full video recording of the incident from the moment she entered the supermarket to the arrest. Additionally, I've gathered internal reports that I believe will be very useful for accusing abuse of power. Michelle looked at her with appreciation. "Olivia, your courage and dedication are invaluable gifts for justice. People like you who dare to stand up even when unnoticed give us hope for change." Alana choked up, speaking emotionally. "Thank you for daring to speak out, for helping. when everything seemed against me. Olivia smiled gently. Justice is not only a loud voice, but also small, persistent actions. I'm just doing what I believe is right. Shatters. Olivia's role stands as a testament to the power of individuals working behind the scenes. They do not seek widespread recognition, but their courage, sense of responsibility, and persistence form the strength that helps justice be revealed and upheld. Sociologist Daniel Harper once said, "In the legal system, there are those who stand on the judge's bench, and there are those who quietly work behind the scenes recording every detail, protecting the truth. They are the silent pillars of justice." Olivia's story is also a reminder of the importance of every individual's contribution, no matter how small, in the fight against injustice. Alana knows the legal journey ahead will be difficult, but she feels reassured having allies like Olivia and Michelle by her side. She understands that justice never comes easily, but it will come if it is protected by truth and courage. One day after everyone had left the courthouse, Olivia stopped to look at a large photo hanging on the wall, an image of those who had fought for justice through the ages. She quietly vowed, "I will not let their courage be forgotten. I will be the guardian of truth, no matter what position I hold." As the story of Alana Johnson began to spread, it was not only voices within the courthouse or the community, but also the media that joined the fight. A silent but fierce and determined media battle had begun. Michelle Carter, Alana's lawyer, understood clearly that to win this case, they could not rely solely on legal evidence. They needed a powerful media campaign to pressure public opinion, forcing the system to listen and change. At a meeting in the law office, Michelle, along with court staff, Olivia Bennett, and Carla Nguyen, a well-known investigative journalist, began planning. Carla, with extensive experience uncovering social scandals, spoke passionately. "Media is our sharpest weapon, but it's also a double-edged sword. We have to control the narrative, deal with fake news and the conspiracies aiming to discredit Alana." Olivia nodded in agreement. "We must ensure all information is verified so that bad actors cannot exploit this situation to create chaos." Michelle added, "We will connect with social organizations and civil rights networks to spread the story. Community support will be the shield protecting Alana from waves of opposition and mockery." Carla shared experience from similar cases like the Black Lives Matter movement, where social media played a central role in bringing events to light, but also had to confront waves of fake news and distortions from opposing groups. Throughout the process, they faced many challenges. Some news outlets spread false rumors, deliberately twisting the facts to discredit Alana and her support team. Fake social media accounts appeared, sowing division within the community and creating heated debates. Carla could not hide her frustration as she commented, "It's sad that the truth must always fight against lies, but we cannot let that stop us." The team decided to hold a press conference, send press releases to reputable media outlets, and launch online campaigns calling for widespread support. At a press conference in the community center, Michelle stood before a crowd of reporters and supporters, clearly stating their goals. "We are not only fighting for Alana Johnson, but for justice and truth in society. We demand transparency, accountability, and real change in the police system." Michelle's speech was broadcast live across social media platforms, creating a powerful wave of emotion and solidarity. The community began to unite, and social organizations got more involved, building a strong movement demanding justice. However, media pressure also brought new challenges. Local police and the police union continuously rebutted and spread misinformation to weaken the group's campaign. A fierce debate erupted on TV programs and newspapers between those supporting justice and those defending the police force. The opposing voices deepened social division. Michelle confided to Alana one evening after the press conference, "This is just the beginning. The road ahead is long and difficult, but media and community support are the keys to victory." Alana looked out the window, her eyes shining with belief. "I know, with people like Michelle, Olivia, and Carla, and with the community's companionship, I am not alone." The media battle not only helped expose the truth, but also contributed to awakening society, forcing those in power to face reality and take responsibility. After the unjust arrest of Alana Johnson was made public and widely circulated, the light of justice seemed to shine more powerfully than ever. However, in the shadows, another storm quietly formed, aiming to extinguish the flames of hope and courage within the Brooks family. One evening when Alana and David returned home after a long day of legal meetings and media campaigns, they found the front door wide open, a clear sign that someone had broken in. Inside, belongings were scattered, important documents and some personal items damaged. David, with his soldier's instincts, quickly checked everywhere, then looked at Alana with a worried yet angry gaze. "This is no random incident, Alana. They're sending us a clear message." Though her heart raced, Alana kept calm and replied, "No matter what they do, I won't let fear defeat me. We fought too hard to turn back now." In the days that followed, the Brooks family received anonymous threatening calls and veiled messages that made the atmosphere at home tense. Once David's car window was smashed, a blatant act of sabotage. Olivia Bennett, upon learning of the situation, could not hide her concern. "We must ensure the family's safety. They're using every tactic to block justice." Michelle Carter also issued a serious warning. "This is the dark side of the struggle. Not only the legal battle, but also facing hidden forces ready to use any means to protect their interests." But amid threats and danger, the inner strength of Alana and David only grew firmer. They relied not only on each other, but also received strong support from the community and allies. One evening in their small room, David looked straight into Alana's eyes. "We will not let them win. Your courage has inspired me and the community. We must continue no matter how hard it gets." Alana smiled, her voice full of determination. "Yes, David. We fight not only for ourselves, but for all the oppressed. This is the time to speak up, to never bow to injustice." The Brooks family's story is a vivid testament to willpower and bravery in the fight against racism and injustice. They endured both physical and emotional wounds while facing constant pressure and threats. Their greatest lesson is steadfastness, courage, and unwavering faith in justice and social change. Everyone, regardless of position, can be a small flame helping to illuminate the hidden corners of truth. David once said quietly to Alana, "We cannot choose where we are born, but we can choose how to stand up. And I choose to stand by you till the end." Under the gray skies of the city, chants of justice began spreading from small streets to large avenues, from hidden corners to wide open squares. Alana Johnson's story had become a sacred flame, igniting a nationwide social movement. Protests began to flare up in major cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. Diverse crowds in race, age, and social class stood together, joining hands as a unified bloc to send a clear message. Injustice and racism can no longer be tolerated. Marcus Lee, a famous civil rights activist, stood on the podium addressing thousands at a downtown rally. His voice echoed with resolve. Alana's story is not just her own. It symbolizes our struggle for human rights, for the justice everyone deserves. Major civil rights organizations such as NAACP, ACLU, and local community groups quickly mobilized, organizing workshops, forums, and media campaigns to raise awareness and advocate policy changes. At a forum, Olivia Bennett, the court staff who quietly assisted Alana, shared community consensus and strength are the keys to sustainable change. When we stand together, nothing is impossible. Simultaneously, numerous fundraising and legal aid campaigns were launched, helping other victims in the community access needed support. The diverse connections across ethnic and social groups created an undefeatable common front. At a community event, Alana clearly felt the powerful ripple effect of her story. She spoke with hope-filled voice. "I can't imagine how strong the community is. When we stand shoulder to shoulder, every voice, every action contributes to change." Banners bearing slogans like "Justice for Alana, Stop Racism," and "We All Deserve" covered protests and community events, becoming symbols of belief and hope. The social movement also pushed legislators into action. Many politicians began proposing reform policies aimed at increasing accountability and transparency within the police force. However, Maya Johnson and her allies understood that despite the immense power of the community, the battle ahead remained challenging. Yet they knew that nothing was more valuable than unity and consensus across all social strata. One evening during a conversation with her husband, Alana said, "We've begun a journey, and I believe every step we take is making real change." David smiled, holding her hand tightly. "As long as we don't stop or give up, justice will prevail."
Yes, sir.
The courtroom light streamed through large windows, illuminating the tense faces of those present at the trial. A heavy, anxious atmosphere filled the room. For this was not just an ordinary lawsuit, but a dramatic legal battle capturing nationwide attention. Alana Johnson sat upright in the victim's seat, her eyes bright with determination, though her nerves were undeniable. Opposite her, Officer Johnson, the accused of abuse of power and racial discrimination, sat coldly confident, bolstered by strong support from the police union and defense attorneys. The trial began with Alana's testimony. She detailed every moment of her wrongful arrest, every suspicious gaze, and every prejudiced word she endured. Her voice carried deep emotion, silencing the courtroom as all listened attentively. Attorney Michelle Carter rose to argue, presenting collected photographic evidence, videos, and witness statements. Clear footage exposed not only violent behavior, but also evident racial bias by Officer Johnson. On the defense side, the attorney attempted to mitigate Officer Johnson's responsibility, offering reasons and evidence to deny abuse of power, arguing the officer acted under duty in a tense situation. These arguments made the trial increasingly tense and contentious. National media focused intensely on the case, with reporters from major networks continuously updating developments, drawing millions of viewers. Public pressure mounted, making all involved acutely aware of their responsibilities and expectations. Besides testimonies, legal experts were called to analyze the challenges of prosecuting police officers. They emphasized that the current legal system still contains many barriers when handling cases involving law enforcement due to protections from unions and vested interests. One legal expert stated, "To charge a police officer requires not only clear evidence, but also overcoming significant political pressures and obstacles." This is a major challenge for justice. During cross-examination, tense moments arose as attorneys posed sharp questions aimed at uncovering and clarifying every detail of the incident. Alana remained firm, answering honestly and steadfastly, while Officer Johnson tried to evade critical questions. A notable moment came when a key witness appeared, having observed the entire incident and bravely stepping forward to tell the truth. This testimony added weight to the case and put immense pressure on the defendant. The trial extended with gripping details punctuated by quiet, suspenseful moments as the jury prepared to deliver its verdict. Outside, Alana's family and the public watched with hopeful yet anxious eyes. In the months following the intense trial, as media spotlight gradually dimmed, Maya Johnson embarked on a different journey, one of psychological healing that few see after public battles. Maya sat in the peaceful room of a mental health support center, soft light filtering through the window, creating a warm, calm space. She shared with a therapist the deep wounds invisible to the eye, lingering fear of pain from betrayal by the system she once trusted, and the loneliness of fighting injustice. "I feel like I'm caught in an endless whirlpool," Maya said, her voice tinged with sadness, but still strong. "The screams, the suspicious looks, and the sense of lost humanity, these haunt me every day." The psychologist Dr. Laura Simmons gently explained, "Experiences like Maya's often leave profound psychological scars, including PTSD, anxiety, and depression. However, with proper support, persistence, and community companionship, these wounds can heal." Maya began psychological therapy sessions, learning to face and process her suppressed emotions. She joined support groups with others who had experienced similar circumstances, finding a shared understanding and empathy she once thought impossible. At one group meeting, Maya shared, "We are not alone. Hearing other stories, I realize I have the strength to overcome, to keep living and fighting." Laura encouraged Maya and the group to apply methods like meditation, yoga, and emotional journaling to maintain mental health. Scientific studies have also shown that strong social support plays a crucial role in mental recovery, helping reduce psychological disorder symptoms and enhancing adaptability. Maya continuously worked to rebuild her trust in herself and society. She participated in community activities, becoming an inspiration and helping others so they wouldn't face hardships alone. "Life still has many challenges, but I know I am no longer afraid," Maya said with a gentle smile. "I want to share my story so people know that even through pain, we can still rise." Maya's journey is a testament to the power of perseverance, courage, and faith in justice and humanity. Her story didn't end in the courtroom. It opened a new chapter, one of healing and hope. Behind the public spotlight and passionate protests, another battle quietly unfolded in legislative chambers, where power and politics intersected with complexity and calculation. Soon after Alana Johnson's case gained wide attention, interest groups, especially the police union and related organizations, intensified lobbying efforts to protect law enforcement and block overly forceful reforms that could weaken their power. In a closed-door meeting in the Capitol, Robert Gaines, the police union leader, joined political allies to devise a strategy. He stated bluntly, "We must protect our brothers. These policies, if unchecked, will destroy social safety and order. They don't understand the pressure police face every day." Conservative politicians agreed using financial strength and vast networks to influence decisions in legislative chambers. Some opposed budget cuts or demands for increased training, fearing these changes would diminish the security force's effectiveness. At a key city council meeting, Councilman Alan Matthews spoke resolutely. "We need strong support for the police who work hard to maintain security. Reforms must be carefully considered so as not to harm public safety." Conversely, social reform advocates and lawyers like Michelle Carter, alongside civil rights representatives, argued fiercely for policies such as mandatory body cameras, strict handling of complaints, and multicultural training to reduce racial discrimination. Michelle said persuasively, "We can no longer hide the truth. Justice is not just an individual right, but a societal responsibility. Reform is necessary to build trust and fairness." However, the complexity of political struggle was evident in prolonged negotiations, with compromises diluting the reform's effectiveness. Alana and David watched these developments on TV, feeling the difficulty of translating truth and justice into actual policy. David sighed, "We fought in court. Now we must fight in the halls of power where real decisions are made." Alana nodded, her eyes steadfast. "We can't give up." Political complexity only highlights how important it is to stand up, speak truth, and hold on to faith. The lesson from this struggle is that the fight for justice is not confined to courtrooms. It is a long battle requiring persistence, deep political understanding, and close community cooperation. Political analyst Sandra Mitchell observed, "Political struggle is not a straight path but a maze. To change the system, you need strategy, patience, and strength from many sides." The legislative battle continues with wins and losses interwoven, yet from its small steps of progress begin to sprout, laying the groundwork for lasting change. The dawn light streamed through the window of a meeting room at the City Government Center, where serious and intense discussions about police reform were taking place. This was no longer empty promises, but a time to turn theory into action, concrete policies and measures proposed to change the system from within. After months of relentless struggle, Alana Johnson had become one of the key voices in community meetings and legislative sessions. She understood that change had to be accompanied by specific and practical measures. One of the strongly proposed policies was mandatory body cameras for police officers. Michelle Carter, the lawyer representing victims of racial discrimination, stated, "Cameras will be the light that reveals the truth, helping to limit misconduct and protect both the police and the public. It is an essential tool for transparency and fairness." However, implementing this policy was not without challenges. Some officers and police unions opposed it, arguing that wearing cameras could hinder their work, expose sensitive information, and create significant pressure in tense situations. Olivia Bennett, a court employee and reform supporter, shared at a workshop, "Multicultural training is also essential. Police need a deeper understanding of the communities they serve to avoid misunderstandings and unconscious biases." Additionally, a transparent and effective complaint system was proposed to ensure that all allegations of abuse would be seriously reviewed, preventing cover-ups and delays. David Brooks, Alana's husband, and a former military colonel, emphasized reform isn't just laws on paper. It must go hand in hand with a change in mindset and the working culture of the police force. During implementation, challenges such as lack of funding, internal resistance, and administrative obstacles were noted. Some cities struggled to sustain training and monitoring programs. Nevertheless, experts and activists saw positive signs. Rates of abuse decreased, community trust gradually improved, and citizen participation in police oversight increased. A recent survey showed that where cameras and multicultural training were effectively applied, conflicts between police and residents significantly dropped. At a university talk, Maya Johnson affirmed, "Reform is a long journey. There are difficulties and failures, but every step forward is valuable. We need patience and unity from everyone. From Alana's story, the lesson learned was that the combination of law education and community engagement is the key to changing the system. Yito. In a hidden corner of the police force where the voice of change remained quiet, Black officers and their allies were emerging like small flames lighting hope. They were the crucial agents pushing reform from within, though their path was far from easy. Sergeant Marcus Williams, a Black police officer, was a leader in this movement. At an internal meeting, Marcus spoke candidly to colleagues. "We are the defenders of justice. But if we ourselves are not fair, who will be? I can't stand by and watch discrimination and abuse continue without speaking up." His words gained agreement, but also faced challenges from conservative colleagues who were hesitant or opposed to multicultural training and operational transparency. Marcus's teammate, Officer Linda Parks, shared in a conversation. "Working within this system, I see the difference between words and actions. Many want change, but pressures from outside and inside force them to stay silent. Officers like Marcus and Linda not only fought misconduct, but also served as bridges between the community and the police, rebuilding trust damaged over many years. They organized workshops, exchanged ideas with citizens, listened to grievances, and conveyed perspectives on internal reform efforts. However, the path was full of challenges. Marcus had been isolated by conservative colleagues and faced mild retaliation, like exclusion from key assignments or reduced promotion opportunities. Linda frankly recalled, "There were times I felt lonely and exhausted, but seeing the eyes of the people I serve, I knew I couldn't give up." The presence of these reform-minded officers created positive shifts in the working culture of a segment of the police force, promoting greater transparency and accountability. Social analysts emphasize that the involvement of Black officers and allies was a critical factor in ensuring that reform policies did not remain mere paperwork, but were effectively implemented. Professor of social psychology David Nguyen observed, "When people from within the system speak up and take action, they become catalysts for profound change, helping to reduce resistance and increase the credibility of reforms." The stories of Marcus, Linda, and many other officers demonstrate that even in the toughest environments, the power of belief and courage can transform an entire system. Marcus concluded in a workshop, "We cannot win if we stand alone. Let's stand together for justice, for truth, and for the future of the communities we serve." The golden afternoon light bathed the bustling city streets as Maya Johnson walked forward in a completely new role, an inspired and passionate social activist. From being a victim of discrimination and injustice, Maya had transformed her pain into strength, becoming a guiding light for the community, especially the younger generation. Maya recalled the early days after the incident. "I once thought I would fall, stay silent, and accept my fate. But then I realized silence would save neither me nor anyone else." She began joining civil rights organizations, contributing to building educational programs about human rights, and organizing workshops to raise awareness about racial discrimination and civil liberties. At a community center meeting, Maya stood before a group of young people, her eyes shining with hope. "You are the future, the ones who will change the world. Don't let anyone define your worth. Don't let injustice extinguish your dreams." Together with colleagues, Maya established a fund providing legal and psychological support to those affected by police abuses, helping them find a voice and protection in society. Her speeches attracted not only adults but also inspired many young people, making them feel heard and responsible towards society. Alana, Maya's younger sister, shared, "Maya has changed our whole family. She taught us that everyone can make a difference no matter where they start from." Additionally, Maya collaborated with lawmakers and NGOs to push for reform policies and build a fairer community. Her days of activism not only echoed widely, but also fostered unity and solidarity in a community once fractured by injustice. However, Maya's path was not entirely smooth. She faced exhaustion pressure and frequent criticism from opposing forces. Maya confided, "There were times I felt lonely, but I always remembered why I started. And it was the community, the supporters, who gave me strength to keep going." The key lesson Maya wanted to share was that the strength of one individual can ripple out into broad social influence, if only we dare to stand up and speak the truth. In an interview, Maya said, "We are not superheroes, but each of us can be a small light, illuminating and guiding others." Maya's journey is a living testament to the power of persistence, courage, and an unwavering belief in justice and change.
우다함.
Under the stage lights, at a vibrant community gathering, Maya Johnson stood strong, her eyes radiating steadfast hope and determination. Hundreds of eyes watched, breath held, awaiting every word as if it were an irresistible call to action. "We have witnessed too much injustice," Maya began, with a passionate voice, every word filled with power. "But it is we who can change that. Silence today will be complicity tomorrow." The crowd seemed to awaken deeply, feeling that this call was not mere speech, but a mission. Maya continued, "Fighting for justice is not the responsibility of a few. It is the responsibility of all of us. Stand up, speak out the truth, and don't let anyone be left behind." Amidst roaring applause, Maya looked around, seeing young faces full of enthusiasm, ready to embark on this difficult yet meaningful path. "We must protect one another," she said, "and build a society where fairness and equality are not just ideals, but realities for everyone, regardless of race, gender, or circumstance." Maya reminded everyone of the power held by each individual, each small but meaningful act, and the crucial importance of unity in the struggle. She concluded with a powerful call: "Be the voice for those who have none. Take action for a future we can proudly pass on to the next generation." Maya smiled and bowed in gratitude to the audience, then gently reminded, "If you wanted to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and follow the upcoming updates. Together we can make a difference." She ended with a phrase that resonated deeply: "Silence today is complicity tomorrow." A closing message both urging and awakening, leaving a lasting impression in listeners' minds. A reminder that each of us holds the responsibility and power to change this world, starting with our own actions and voices.